Hi there, today I'm going to try to show you how to fix the instrument cluster lights in a 2001 to 2003 Grand Caravan or Caravan. There are 8 lamps behind the speedometers and the fuel gauge. There's one behind the fuel gauge here. There are 3 behind each of the large circles, one at 20, one at 60, and one at about 100. And same thing here, one at about 1, 3.5, and 6, and then there's one behind the temperature cluster. You can tell which ones are out by counting which ones are missing when you have them turned on. Alright, so I'm going to show you how to get into this. First thing you should do is disconnect the negative battery cable. That will keep the airbag from deploying by accident while you are working on this. To get this piece off here, there are 3 screws. There are 2 right under the, kind of close to where the key is. There's one here, and then there's one over underneath the wiper blade lever. 2 of them hold the housing to itself, and one of them actually holds the housing to the steering column itself. First thing you're going to want to do is tilt your steering column probably up so that you can see the screws a little easier, and begin to unscrew those with a Phillips, usually it's a Phillips screwdriver. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I will get back to you. Okay, so I've done the 2 outside screws, the furthest away from each other. Those are the ones that hold the cowling to itself. The third one, kind of a little bit more towards the middle, holds the unit to the actual steering column. Got to be careful when you're unscrewing them because the screws can fall straight down. So just make sure you have enough light in case they drop all the way down, and be sure to keep track of them. Now the cowling is actually got a little bit of plastic clips that keep it attached to itself, so you might have to kind of force a screwdriver in there or squeeze a little bit to get those to break loose. The bottom and the top should come out pretty easy. At this time you're going to want to probably move the steering wheel back down so you can get the top piece off nice and easy. Sometimes you'll have dust bunnies. It might be a good idea to have a vacuum handy. Sorry about the squeaky chair. I know it's creaking. Old car. Alright, so the next piece here, you've got a panel right here that comes off with a plastic deal. You have to pop it up like that. There's a hole right here in this piece, a hole right here that fits over that green point right there. So you just have to pry it up with a screwdriver. Be careful not to break it. After that, you got 2 screws, one here and here. Alright, so after you've gotten those 2 down there done, you'll probably want to get a smaller screwdriver, a stubby. And then there are 2 on the top, just opposite the ones that you probably just did. Okay, so after getting the 2 facing up here and the 2 facing down there, this whole piece should come out. It's a little tricky sometimes getting it out around the dash, but a flathead screwdriver or just a little patience should work. And then it basically just kind of squeezes out. The whole thing should come out. Now you've got 4 more screws to pull out. You've got 2 on the top, one on this side and one on this side. You've got 2 on the bottom, one here and one on this other side. Something else that you can do is squeeze a rag down into the cracks under where the screw might fall. That way if you do drop the screw, the chances are it'll fall into your rag and you can claim it without having to dig for it. You don't want to leave any screws that have fallen down in your dash just floating around. They could short out the circuits somewhere else, the wiring that's down underneath your steering column. That could be dangerous. It could start a fire. So you do want to try to retrieve those screws should they drop, and this rag here could help prevent losing them. So now the dash should just come straight out. I've gotten all 4 screws. The whole thing sort of bends down. Now you've got a wiring harness at the top up here. It's got a little red, in my case, it's got a little red clip that will release that. You want to take and push that red clip back up. That will allow you to squeeze the harness and unplug it as such. So I wanted to show the wiring harness up close. It helps visualize how you have to take it apart. As I said, this red part here slides back up and away from the instrument cluster. And then there's a small black tab that you actually have to push on right here. When you push on that tab, when you push down on it, it allows it to come out. It unlocks the mechanism so that you can pull that off the cluster. So just knowing that helps kind of when you're the first time you do it, you kind of get an understanding of how these plugs work. Otherwise you might tear them apart. So that's just an up close of that. And then the whole instrument cluster will come right out. Okay, so we've got the instrument panel out. This is the back. We've got 8 bulbs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The gray ones are the old ones, and I did get one dud when I ordered last time, so I'll be replacing that one as well. To get these out of here, the old ones, you just take and grab it. I found it easier with pliers. Twist it a quarter of a turn and pull it out, and that's your original bulb. Now, the LED that you get is going to look a little different. The standard ones have kind of a soft white look to them, and they turn out green when they're in your instrument panel. The LEDs light up on the top. The cool white that I got turned out, like I said, very blue in color. It's a real nice color though. So to put the new one in, you literally just replace it exactly as the old one was. There's little metal tabs on it that connect with the solder board, and that makes it work. So now the trick with the LEDs, unfortunately, is that they're polarized, and it even says on the bag that these bulbs are polarized. If they don't work, turn them around. So unfortunately, it's going to require a little bit of trial and error. I'll have to put them all in and plug it in and see what happens. Get everything turned back on and see if any of them are not lit. Which ones are not lit? I'll pull it back out and spin them around 180 degrees and put them back in. So I'm going to go do that now. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of these bulbs in now that I've shown you how to do it, and then we'll get to testing it out. Here's a close-up of the LEDs, and my focus field is very narrow, so sorry if it gets a little blurry. It's very much like a Christmas light in that the LED can come out of the housing. Be very careful to not do that. If you do, it can be put back in place, but I can't guarantee it'll work. I don't know if that's a problem I had with my other LED. So the light is emitted from the top here, and then there's little metal pieces, one on each side, that connect with your circuit board. So just an up close of the LEDs so that you know what you're looking at. Okay, so now we're going to plug this back in and give it a quick test. I know I said to disconnect the negative cable, but in order to do this, you're going to have to plug it back in. So we're going to just push this in and kind of just set it in place. We don't want to put it all the way back together to test out these lights to make sure that they work. So flip the lights on, and it looks like I have got a full array, except for the hot and cold. Doesn't look like it's on. So I see a pretty bright light behind the 1, the 6, and a 3.5. So it appears that I have those working correctly. I'll take it back out and fix the hot and cold. So it's pretty much a 50% chance when you're putting that in to get it right or not. So. So I wanted to show you how the cowling goes together, that goes around the steering wheel. This part here is the front. It would sit like this normally. So just looking at it from the back, you can see here that this column almost touches and that column down there almost touches. Those two columns are the ones that hold this together. And then this third one here in the middle, that's the one that actually screws it into the steering column itself. So just so you know how that works when you're taking it apart, when you're putting it back together, that helps you. It's a little tricky to get these two to line up at the same time, so that's why I'm showing this to you, because sometimes it's actually easier just to use 2 screwdrivers, get your screws lined up first, and do those first, because you can see as you're putting it together what you're doing that way. So just a little trick I learned to hopefully save you some time, and just a little information to hopefully also save you some time on how this works. Okay, so I'm going to drop this on here. I've gotten the 2 screws ready, because what's going to happen is we're going to flip this upside down. It's very difficult to screw straight up in there, especially without light. First thing I need to do is tilt that back up, and if you look, you can line up the screws, kind of get them in place, especially this long one here, get it lined up. And once you do this, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's the places are pretty obvious. So get this one. What I'm doing is I'm screwing in the middle one right now. I'm getting it so that the cowling is attached to the steering column right now, and I'm holding the other screw in place with my screwdriver. I don't want it to fall down, because once it falls down, to get it back up into that hole, while sitting on the end of your screwdriver. It has to go up about a 2.5-inch shaft, and it gets kind of difficult to push it up there and line it up just right. So by holding it in place, I can alleviate having that problem. Pop this back down again so I can see what I'm doing. Get this piece on. The one on the far end is usually pretty easy to do. So now that I've got this screw lined up, it should just feed right into the top cowling, and it'll pinch it down once it gets all the way there, which it looks like it's done. Right, now the last one, of course, is on the other side. But it's a much shorter travel, so it shouldn't be nearly as difficult to line up. And there we go. If you listen to what I said in the first place, which is if you went out and you unhook the negative part of your battery, now's the part where you would go down and go around, hook that back up. Alright, so one last check here after we've gotten it all together. It looks like all the lights are on. We'll know better in the dark, of course, tonight when I'm driving. Alright, so here's the LEDs at nighttime. Thought I'd go ahead and show that as well. They look brighter than they really are. The camera's kind of oversensitizing it. You can see the controls over here and stuff. But like I said, you can dim it down a little bit. But truly, that's actually very dim. This in the camera is about what it looks like in real life. So, but looks like everything's working, which is awesome. Okay, so hopefully I have saved you some money. Costs about $20 in parts, maybe a little less depending on where you live. I live in Alaska, so shipping's always a little rougher here. And you know, about 30 minutes of your time, hopefully by showing you what is behind the dash, it helps you figure out how to take it apart without breaking anything, and shows you how easy it is to replace those lights. I had to figure it out myself. I wasn't going to go to the dealer and pay, I don't know, somebody said they quoted them $300 to $500. I think that's insane. I don't know if it's true, but way too much. So hopefully I've helped you out. Good luck replacing your parts, and hope you've let's say I hope I've helped like one more time, because I've only said it like 600 times. So yeah, anyway, good luck with your vehicle, and have a great day. Find the off button.